Hello, welcome to yet another episode where we shall be looking at the preparation for mathematics paper 2 for the grade 8's end of year examination. Okay, so the topics that we can expect in paper 2 are basically geometry, everything around geometry. Number one, we have what we call the geometry of straight lines, né? Where you talk about the parallel lines, the perpendicular lines, and all those things. Number two, we need to also look at the geometry of the 2D shapes. Okay, you look at the triangles, the rectangles, the kites, the properties of all those shapes. We look into them. And then next, we have what we call the measurements. Okay, still under the measurements, that's when we shall have the theorem of Pythagoras, the area of a circle, perimeter of shapes, and all those various aspects. Okay, so basically, that is what we can anticipate in as far as paper 2 is concerned. Is there anything else that we left out? Let's check. So basically, that is that, because under the geometry of 2D shapes, remember, we also have what we call the similarity and the congruency, and then all those things. Okay, so let's use this paper just as a revision guide, okay, as we prepare for our final paper. Okay, they are telling us that we have 5 questions. Okay, we need to answer all of them. Okay, question number one, which is the MCQ. What does the word perimeter refer to? So we know that perimeter simply refers to the total distance that is around a closed shape, okay, which closed shape is normally known as a 2D shape. So space occupied, this is wrong. The total distance around, that is correct. So option B is the best answer there. And then we know that vertically opposite angles they are always equal to each other. So if this angle is vertically opposite to that, the values will be the same. So option B still will be the correct version, okay? You cannot say equals to 90. I mean, it can be any number. Then what is the value of x? Now we have this type of triangle, which is isosceles. And we know that if this side is equal to that side, which means this angle must also be equal to that angle, which is 55. And then we need to add up the angles in a triangle that must be equated to 180 degrees. So we're going to say x plus 55 plus another 55 should give us 118. We know that 55 and 55 gives us 110. Then we can move the 110 that side. We subtract from the 180, which gives us 70 degrees. So option D would be the best. Then the radius of a circle with a diameter of 25 in centimeters would be, so let's start by changing these 25 millimeters to centimeters. So from millimeters to centimeters, we're gonna divide by 10. So this divide by 10, you get 2.5 centimeters. Then we know that radius should be a half of the diameter. So if we get the 2.5 divided by 2, we're gonna get 1.25 centimeters as our radius. So option B is the best answer. And then in figure below, c squared. So this is talking about the theorem of Pythagoras. So if this is the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, and this is our opposite. We know that the hypotenuse squared should be equal to the opposite squared plus the adjacent squared. So this is what we call the theorem of Pythagoras. So c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, which is option A. Okay, then question number 2, which is section B, are telling us that the figure below shows a line AB, which is perpendicular to the line OQ. Okay, perpendicular means there's a 90. The angle AOP is a 3x here, and then POQ is a 2x. Good. Determine the value of x, giving reasons for your statements. Okay. Now, what we know is that if this is a 90, this is 2x, that's 3x, and this is a straight line, all angles that lie on a straight line must add up to 180 degrees. So we're going to say that 3x plus 2x plus a 19 equals to 118. Reason, we're going to say adjacent supplementary angles. Then 2x and 3x gives us 5x. Let's move the 90 to that side. I'm going to get 180 minus a 19. So 5x is a 19. Then let's divide both sides by 5. Okay. Over 5 over 5. And then x should be, is it 18? People with calculators, please help us. What's 90 divided by 5? It should be round about that value. Let me just confirm with my calculator. Okay, 90 divided by 5, it's 18. Perfect. Okay, then 2.1.2 determine the numerical value of A or P. So A or P, remember it is a 3x. So meaning that we need to replace x with a 3 so that it is 3 multiplied by 18. So 18 times 3 gives me a 54 degrees. All right, then 2.2. Line AB is parallel to line CD. That's fine. ST passes through the two parallel lines, which is a transversal. Write down the mathematical term given to ST. Oh, Lord. So this is a transversal line. I'm not sure whether that's the spelling, but I would have it that way, transversal line. Okay, then determine the value of y. So with the parallel lines, what we know is that this y plus 24 together with the y plus 4, they form the U or the C, which brings about the co-interior angles. And we know that co-interior angles must add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to say 180 co-interior angles because AB is parallel to CD. So y plus y gives us a 2y. 24 and 4 gives us a 28 is equal to 180. Let's move the 28 that side. So we are saying 180 minus 28, we are getting 152. Then let's divide both sides by 2. Okay, so over 2, meaning that our y is going to be something like a 76 degrees. Okay, so a reason could be a mark. This statement is a mark. The simplification is a mark, and then the final answer is also a mark for 4 marks. Then determine the value of x. So looking at the position of x, okay, we know that x and the y plus 4 are going to be the same because they are vertically opposite. So we're going to say x is the same as y plus 4. We are saying vertically opposite angles. Okay, but our y was a 76, so it's going to be 76 plus 4, meaning that x is 80 degrees. All right, then question number 3, which is the geometry of 2D shapes, not end. Complete the following statements, okay? The sum of interior angles of a triangle add up to, this is 180 degrees. A dash is a quadrilateral with all sides equal and each interior angle is 90. So all sides equal with a 90, that is a square. Okay. And then 3.2, name each triangle by looking at its sides. Okay, now if we are using sides, then we're going to have what we call the isosceles. We also have what we call the scalene. And then we're going to also look at equilateral. Those are the only triangles we use the sides. Okay, so equilateral, right angled, scalene, isosceles. They gave us 4 options, but this second option is out because that is using angles. So if all the sides are different, okay, you see the markings, 2 markings, 1 marking, 3 markings. This is a scalene, okay, triangle. If 2 sides that are next to each other are the same, this is known as isosceles. And then if all the sides are equal with the same marking, this is known as equilateral. Okay, so that is how we get those 6 marks for free. Then 3.3, which two triangles are congruent? Now we're saying that shapes can be congruent if they are identical, okay? Meaning that they are of the same size, same angles, same everything, in as much as one can be flipped around or what, but the size is definitely the same. So when you look at A and B, A is smaller than B, so A and B is out. But A and C, they are generally more or less the same size, just that this one is flipped around, and then, so we're gonna say that triangle A is congruent to triangle C. We do not have the condition to give, so we cannot give any conditions. Then 3.4, in the figure below, NMAB is a parallelogram. Okay. They're telling us angle N is x plus 60. Angle B is x plus 40. MA is a 2 centimeter. I know it doesn't look like a parallelogram, but looks can be deceiving sometimes. Ne? All right, calculate giving reasons the size of x. Now, what do we know about a parallelogram? One property that we must know is that the opposite angles will always be equal, meaning that if this is x plus 40, even this must be x plus 40. If this is x plus 60, even this side must be x plus 60. The reason, those are the opposite angles of a parallelogram, or we call it a palm. So we can start by saying that A is x plus 60, and then is it B? A, B, C, no, it is M. I'm saying M is x plus 40. Reason for this is going to be the opposite angles of a parallelogram, which is sometimes abbreviated as just a palm. Now, for us to get the angles or the value of x, we need to add up everything here and then equate it to 360. So we're dealing with angles strictly, so we cannot bring in the sides. So x plus 60 plus another x plus 60 plus x plus 40, another x plus 40 is equal to 360 degrees. Reason, angles in a quadrilateral. So how many x's do we have? We have 4 x's, 60 and 60 is 120, 120 and 40 is 160 plus 40. That is a 200 is equal to 360 degrees. Let's move the 200 that side. So 4x is going to be 360 minus 200, meaning that our 4x becomes a 160. Divide by 4, divide by 4, meaning that x should be just 40 degrees. Then write down the length of y, and you must give a reason for your answer. Where is y? So y is the opposite side of these two. So meaning that y must also be a 2. So y is going to be 2. Reason is the opposite side of a palm. Opposite sides of a parallelogram, they must be equal to each other. Question number 4, which is the theorem of Pythagoras. Okay, we're dealing with triangles. They're telling us PR is perpendicular to QR. QS is a 4 meters. PR is 8. Okay, so here up to there. Then we have a 2 somewhere there. Calculate the length of the following sides and leave your answer in sad form. Now, what is sad form? Sad form is a scenario whereby you have just a square root as your answer. Let's say root of 2, root of 5, a square root that you cannot simplify. So they want us to get the length of PQ. Where is PQ? This is the biggest length, okay, which is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use the biggest triangle and say that from triangle PQR, I have 8, I have 2, I can find the PQ. Now, since PQ is the hypotenuse, So I'll say this is our R, this is our Q, this is our P. Or some people prefer calling this X, and then that's a Y, no problem. So I'll say that R squared is equal to X squared plus Y squared. Our X is 8, so that is 8 squared plus a 2 squared. Okay, that is 2R squared, meaning that 8 squared is a 64 plus a 4, which gives us a 60 what? 8. And then we must find the square root on either sides, meaning that R should be the square root of 64. When you punch 64 in the calculator, no, is it 64 or 68? It is rather 68. Sorry about that. So square root of 68. What do we get? We are getting 2 square root of 17. So leave the answer like that. That is a simplified side. Okay, then they want us to get the length of SR. Where is SR? So from here up to there, let's use a red one. Okay, they want this distance. So meaning that we're going to use the small triangle. So I'll come down and say from SQR, from triangle SQR, I'll still write my R squared is equal to X squared plus Y squared, because that's the theorem of Pythagoras. Now my R, which is the hypotenuse, is a 4. My X is what I need, plus the Y, which is a 2. Now we know that 4 squared is going to be a 16. SR squared, this is a 4, because 2 by 2 is a 4. Let's move this one to that side. It becomes a 12. And then we can find the square root on either sides. So what is the square root of 12? It is a 2. Square root of 3. Let's confirm that. Good. 2 square root of 3 meters. Okay, that's meters. Even this one is meters. And then they want us to get the length of PS. Okay, so PS is just this distance here, meaning that if we can get our 8 and then we subtract the SR, then we shall have our S. So our PS. So PS is going to be 8 minus 2 square root of 3. So you can leave your answer like that, since the question wanted us to leave the answer in a sad form. Okay, so this should be the answer. But we can change it to decimals just in case. Okay. Now, question number 5, which is the area and the perimeter. They gave us some formulas that pi radius squared times height, that's the volume of a cylinder. Perimeter, you just add up sides. Area, a squared, that is for a square. Pi radius squared, that is for a circle. Refer to the figure below and answer the questions that follow. It's further given that AB is the same as CD. So if this CD is a 20, okay, it means that even the AB must be a 20. But if AE is a 10, meaning that this must also be a 10. If the whole of this is a 12, meaning the whole of this must also be a 12. But we have 8 already. So 12 minus 8, we get a 4 here. So step number 1, before you even start answering any questions in measurements, just make sure that all the sides, the missing sides, are known. So if this is a 4, this must also be a 4, something like that. Then part A, calculate the length of EB. So we've already found it. We said 20 minus 10, which is 10 centimeters. The length of BF is going to be 12 minus 8, which is just the 4 centimeters. Okay, then calculate the perimeter of the shaded part. Okay, so when you look at the shaded part, remember, this 4 can be transferred to this side also. The 10 can be transferred there. So perimeter, we're going to be adding up everything that is around the shape. So I'll start by jotting down the letters, which is AE, but no, there's no need for me to do that. Let me just straight away get to business. So the 20 at the bottom here, and then the 12, okay, plus the 10, which is here. And now plus the 4 going down, and then plus the 10, which is the horizontal that we found, and then plus the 8. Okay, meaning that we're going to have 20 plus 12 plus 10 plus 4 plus 10 plus 8, which gives me 64 meters. Is it meters or centimeters? It is centimeters rather. Okay, so that is how we obtain the perimeter. It's just the total distance around the shape. Then 5.2. Okay, 5.2, the diagram below. The diameter of the circle is 10 centimeters. Okay, so from this point up to that point, it's 10, just we can see that. And then the length of the square is also 10 centimeters. Calculate the area of the circle. So the formula for the area of a circle is given as pi times radius squared, yeah? Where radius represents, where r represents the radius. And we say that radius is diameter divided by 2. So 10 divided by 2, you're going to get a 5. Come down and tell us that pi is the same as 3,142 multiplied by 5 squared. So 3,142 times 5, and then you just punch that into the calculator. So the answer I'm getting is 78,55 centimeters, but squared, since we're talking of the area. If it was perimeter, then it was just going to be 10 centimeters or 78,5 centimeters. Then calculate the area of the shaded part to 2 decimal places. Now, whenever we're looking for the area of the shaded part, this is what we normally do. Né? Get the area of the bigger shape, okay, minus the area of the smaller shape. So our bigger shape here, we can see, is the square, and the smaller shape is the circle. So come down and tell us that it is going to be length times length minus the pi radius squared. So we already have this area of the circle, okay, which is in the previous question. Our challenge is just to get the area of the square, which is 10 times 10, now minus 78,55. So 10 by 10 is 100 minus 78,55. When I subtract that, this is 78,55, which becomes a 21,45. This is centimeters squared. So that is the area of the shaded part. All right, then 5.3, they want us to get the perimeter of the shape below. So what shape is this? We can see that this is a parallelogram. Né? And remember what we said about a parallelogram, that if this is a 10, even this must be a 10. If this is a 50, this must also be a 50. But pay attention to the units. These are centimeters, these are millimeters. We cannot use the same, or we can't use different units in the same shape. So we need to change everything to just one common unit, okay? So since the question was not specific for which unit to use, I'll give 2 options. Number 1, if we were to change the millimeters to centimeters, we're going to divide this by 10 and then end up with a 5, meaning that our perimeter was going to be a 10 plus a 5 plus a 10 plus a 5, which gives us 30 centimeters. If ever we wanted to give the answer in millimeters, then we're going to change the 10 centimeters to millimeters. You multiply by 10, which becomes 100. Then it would be 100 plus 50 plus 100 plus another 50, which gives us 300 millimeters. So it's either this option of the centimeters or the option of the millimeters. All right, so that brings us to the end of the 60-mark paper. Okay, I wish you guys all the best. I know you can do it. And thank you very much for your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing, and wish you all the best in your exams and in all the other subjects. Hope to see you in grade 9 Bye bye.